Hi, thank you for being with me again. My name is Felipe Velez. Today we're going to check victims' legal advocacy. What is victims' legal advocacy? It's going to be the defense, is going to be the legal representation of a victim's right. So if you're listening to this conversation, if you're listening to this audio, if you're listening to this video, I need you to pay real close attention to what are the rights here in California for the victims. Victims have a right to have counsel. They have a right to be represented in a court of law. So if you are one of those people that have been mistreated by the government, either by the United States government or by Mexico, and you're a Mexican, please let me know so we can help you out. Remember, my phone number is 650-705-8750, or you can visit us in our website, vlex.online. Okay, so what are the victims' legal rights? How do we do it from an international scope? Can we challenge a trial? Can we challenge a decision, a verdict that comes from the United States or from Mexico? The answer is yes. We can do it by the International Court of Law. But first, we have to understand what are the basic rights here in California about the victims. So let's check what is this right. Repeat after me. Victims again, pronunciation, victims,
Victims,
legal advocacy.
legal advocacy.
Very good. So what is victims legal advocacy? It's going to be the study of the rights of the victim. So in California law, it provides a comprehensive framework for the rights of victims and legal advocacy, focusing on ensuring that victims of crime are informed, protected, and supported throughout the criminal justice process. So the first thing that we have to understand, what are the Marcy's rights? Again, pronunciation, Marcy's rights.
Mar, I don't see.
Marcy's
Oh,
rights.
yeah, Marcy's rights.
Very good. So we have Miranda's rights because, on the case of Miranda versus the state, on Miranda's right is you have the right to remain silent. You have the right to have an attorney. All of those rights that we see in the movies, and we're going to check next class, Miranda's rights. Miranda's rights come from the police enforcement versus a defendant. Today, we're going to understand the victim's right, which are the Marcy's rights, which come from the Marcy's Act. So then we have the victims protections resources and the victims rights card. So here we're going to understand how in the United States we understand the matters of the law, the victims rights, and how we're going to prosecute people that do not follow these rights. So let's understand them and start from there. So please take your cell phone right now and put it on the screen. As soon as you put it on the screen, you're gonna get it into what is the Charter of the Rights, the Bill of Rights. So if you put it here in your screen, then you'll be able to see what are those rights. How are these rights going to be stated? So you only have to click here, take your cell phone with you, and you're gonna see what are the Bill of Rights. One of the Bill of Rights, it says, Marcy's law significantly expands the rights of the victims in California. Under Marcy's law, the California Constitutional Article 1, Section 28 and B provides victims with the following enumerated rights. The first right is to be treated with fairness and respect for his or her privacy and dignity, and to be free from intimidation, harassment, and abuse throughout the criminal or juvenile justice process. Number two, to be reasonably protected from the defendant and the persons acting on behalf of the defendant. Number three, to have the safety of the victim and the victim's family considering fixing the amount of bail and release conditions for the defendant. Number four, to prevent the disclosure of confidential information or records to the defendant, the defendant's attorney, or any other person acting on behalf of the defendant, which could be used to locate or harass the victim, or the victim's family, or which disclose confidential communications made in the course of medical or counseling treatment, or which are otherwise privileged or conditional by law. Then we have the right to refuse an interview, deposition, or discovery requested by the defendant. So the victim can deny to be questioned by an attorney. or any other person acting on behalf of the defendant. That is, and to set reasonable conditions on the conduct of any such interview of which the victim consents. 6. To reasonable notice and to reasonably confer with the prosecuting agency upon request. Regarding the arrest of the defendant, if known by the prosecutor, the charges filed, the determination whether to extradite the defendant, and upon request, to be notified and informed before any pretrial deposition of the case. Number 7, to reasonable notice of all public proceedings, including delinquency proceedings upon request, at which the defendant and the prosecutor are entitled to be present, and of all parole and other post-conviction release proceedings, and to be present at all such proceedings. Number 8, to be heard upon request at any proceeding, including in any delinquency proceeding involving a post-arrest release decision, plea, sentencing, post-conviction release decision, or any proceeding in which a right of the victim is at issue. The speedy trial and a prompt and final conclusion of the case and any related post-judgment proceedings. To provide information to a probation department official conducting a pre-sentence investigation concerning the impact of the offense on the victim and the victim's family and any sentencing. Recommendations before the sentencing of the defendant. And 11th, to receive upon request the pre-sentence report when available to the defendant, except for those portions made confidential by law. Number 12, to be informed upon request of the conviction, sentence, place and time of incarceration, or other disposition of the defendant, the scheduled release date of the defendant, and the release of or the escape of the defendant from custody. Number 13, to restitution. A, it is an equivocal intention of the people of the state of California that all persons who suffer losses as a result of criminal activity shall have the right to seek and secure restitution from the persons convicted of the crimes causing the losses they suffer. Number B, restitution shall be ordered from the convicted wrongdoer in every case, regardless of the sentence or the position imposed in which a crime victim suffers a loss. So we can continue with all the rights. There are more than 17 rights, but I need you to check them with me online. So let's see, how are these victims' rights here that you have them on the screen. We're going to have a look to them. Don't worry, I'm going to tell them in Spanish. And how are these guarantees? The positions can be waived in a matter of seconds by the victim's advocate. So the victim's advocate is going to be el abogado de la víctima, a victim's advocate. So let's see how this story began and why these rights are amended here in California. So let's continue. What is Marcy's law? Please, again, take your cell phone and go with me. Just take your cell phone, put the QR in the screen, and go to YouTube with me. We're going to watch the video together. And as we're going to watch it together, we're going to see how this victim's rights started. Okay, so let's see and do it ourselves together.
On March 23rd, 2017, a man broke into Michael's home, murdered his wife, and was arrested within a week. Michael attended 11 hearings, but not once was he given the opportunity to address the court. On March 23rd, 2017, a man broke into Michael's home, murdered his wife, and was arrested within a week. Michael attended 11 hearings, but not once was he given the opportunity to address the court. Beverly was never notified that her son's murderer was out of prison. Instead, she found out on Facebook. From the time Lauren was 10 years old to about 16, she was sexually abused each and every day by her family's live-in nanny. When she was finally arrested, Lauren's nanny was advised of her rights, but Lauren received no information about her rights. Marcy's Law would provide every victim with a platform to finally be seen by the criminal justice system. What exactly is Marcy's Law? In short, it provides equal rights for crime victims in the criminal justice system. Let me illustrate. When someone is arrested for a crime, they're read their Miranda rights. A victim, on the other hand, is often given no information of any rights. Marcy's Law would ensure victims are informed of their rights, including information about what's to come and what actions they may take. When someone is accused of a crime, they're given the right to voice their defense. A victim, on the other hand, too often is given no right to a voice at all. Marcy's Law would ensure victims are given the right to be heard throughout the criminal justice process. When those accused of a crime are released from incarceration, few, if any, restrictions are placed on their freedom. Victims, on the other hand, are not notified of such news, often resulting in great risk and re-victimization. Marcy's Law would ensure victims are given the right to choose to be notified regarding the release of the accused. Increasing the rights of victims will not decrease the rights of the accused. It will merely ensure victims are treated fairly, with the same respect and access to justice. This isn't a political issue, it's a human issue. Marcy's Law will give victims the right to be heard, the right to be notified, and the right to be informed of their rights. Marcy's Law will ensure that victims are finally seen by the criminal justice system with the constitutional protections we all deserve. The time has come for equal rights for crime victims. Support Marcy's Law. On March 23rd.
Okay, so that's a big idea of what is Marcy's Law and what it represents to every one state of the United States. So far, there has been little for the legislative posture to extract the Marcy's Law and make it one. So that's why we watch a video when Marcy's Law has to be stated in every state. Here in California, it's a mandate since 2008. So let's see how actually it works here in California. Why is it called Marcy's right? Well, Marcy is called upon Marcy Lee, which is Marcy Nicholas. Is a college student who was stalked and killed by her ex-boyfriend in 1983. This is Marcy, okay? So her family was not informed when her murder was released on bail, leading to the advocacy for these rights. So the murder of this person was never on the list or in the watch list for the family to be protected. So this family remained unprotected. So how do we go from protecting the rights of just the defendant to also protect the rights of the victim? So let's see how it is started. First, Marcy's rights are a set of constitutional rights for crime victims in California, but it's on the Constitution of California, ensuring they are treated with fairness, respect, and dignity. Law enforcement and prosecuting agencies are required to provide victims with a Marcy Rights card. Detailing these rights, the legal framework is Penal Code Section 679.026. The first right that we have is the right of information. We have to know where is the person, where is the defendant. If the defendant has been incarcerated or he has been released, if he has been released, when was he released, if there was any hearing pending, anything. We have to know everything about the defendant. the privacy. We have the right to be private. No newspaper has to know my situation as a victim. So if I ask the newspaper to stop talking about my case, to stop talking about why am I the victim, then we can make sure that right becomes real. Then we also have the right to protection. So as a matter of the right to protection, we have the right for our police officers to protect our body, to have an escort, if we feel this person represents a credible fear against our integrity. And then we have other rights. For example, the right to not delay. So we need a speedy trial. So in that means that we will have an accurate sentencing. And in these accurate sentences, we will have an speedy trial that makes law enforcement provide information as soon as possible. So law enforcement has to be providing all this information all the time along. So victims are entitled to be informed of the rights relating to housing in case they lost their house, employment if they need a new job, a new identity, compensation. How are they going to be compensated for all the damages that the defendant has performed upon them? And the immigration relief. We're going to check BAWA, which is one of those immigration reliefs, and also the U visas. Okay, so next class, I'm going to talk about BAWA and the U visas. If I have some time, I'll do it today, but it will be next class where I concentrate on the defendant's rights and the immigration reliefs, because the United States is going to provide you with some relief. It means some actions by the state because you are a victim. So a victim protection and resources card will be available to you. We're going to see that card and why is this card going so important, which includes comprehensive information about these rights, which must be provided by law enforcement and prosecuting agencies. So remember, this trial has to be quick, so no delay. No exclusion, so the victim can participate in the active investigation. No unfair treatment. When we say no unfair treatment, it means that the burden of proof cannot be more on the victim. The victim has no obligation to prove that she is right. The police is the one that has to investigate. The police has to be investigating if there is no evidence or if there is evidence upon the case. So, upon these rights, it becomes a necessity to create the victim's rights card. So let's see how we can use the victim's right card. So please take your cell phone and go with me and download what is the victim's rights card. So on the Marcy's card, you see this card. It's going to be provided to every victim by the Department of Justice of California. So here it says Marcy's card. It has the officer's name. So the police officer has to provide their badge number and everything. The telephone number of the police officer. The prosecutor names, it means the district attorney's name. The telephone and the police report. The Supreme Court number case, if there is a Supreme Court number case. The defendant's name, what is the name of the defendant. And the date of birth. So the date of birth, it means DOB, it means when he was born. So it says, on November 4, 2008, the people of the state of California approved Proposition 9, the Victims' Bill of Rights Act of 2008, creating the Marcy's Law. This measure amended to the California Constitution to provide additional rights to victims. This card contains specific sections of the Victims' Bill of Rights and Resources. We already checked the Bill of Rights resources. And local victim witness assistance center. So if there's any witness, a friend, family member that can provide witness, how we can give them a new identity if needed. So a victim is defined under the California Constitution as a person who suffers direct or threatened physical, psychological, or financial harm as a result of the commission or attempted commission of a crime or delinquent act. The term victim also includes the person's spouse, parents, children, siblings. It means my aunt, my uncle, my cousins, everyone. Guardian includes a lawful representative of a crime victim who is deceased. My brothers, a minor or physically psychological incapacitated. The term victim does not include a person in custody for offenses that the accused or a person whom the court finds will not act in the best interest of a minor victim. So let's listen some of these rights in Spanish. And it says, Tarjeta de recursos de Marcy. El artículo primero, sección 28b de la Constitución de California confiere ciertos derechos a las víctimas de delitos. Estos derechos incluyen equidad y respeto, fairness, a ser tratada con equidad y respeto por su privacidad y dignidad, dignity, privacy, y a estar libre de intimidación, harassment, acoso y maltrato durante todo el proceso penal o de justicia de menores. Protección del acusado. A estar razonablemente protegida del acusado y de las personas que actúen en nombre del acusado. Defendants. We have to be protected from the defendant. Consideración de la seguridad de la víctima al fijar la fianza y condiciones de puesta en libertad. A que se considere la seguridad de la víctima y de la familia de la víctima al establecer el monto de la fianza y las condiciones de puesta en libertad del acusado. So that's why we're talking about the bail's office, how the bail's office actually has to let know the victim that the person incarcerated is going to be released. Then, 4. Prevención de divulgación de información confidencial, right to privacy. A que se impida la divulgación de información o de registros confidenciales al acusado, al abogado del acusado o cualquier otra persona que actúe en nombre del acusado, que se pueda utilizar para ubicar o acosar a la víctima o la familia de la víctima, o que se revelen comunicaciones confidenciales realizadas en el curso de un tratamiento médico o de consejería, que sean privilegiadas o confidenciales conforme a la ley. 5. Rehusarse a ser entrevistado por la defensa. So that's the right that we have to refuse to be interviewed by the defendant lawyer, even by a subpoena or by any other kind of threat. In any case, this threat can be also a citation. A rehusarse a ser entrevistada, tener que declarar bajo juramento, oath, o someterse a un proceso de revelación solicitado por el acusado. El abogado del acusado o cualquier otra persona que actúe en nombre del acusado y a establecer condiciones razonables para la realización de una entrevista consentida por la víctima. So, there's always has to be a consent of the interview. Conferencia con la fiscalía y aviso de disposiciones tomadas antes del juicio. A recibir un aviso razonable y consultas razonables por parte de la Fiscalía bajo pedido, con respecto al arresto del acusado. Si el fiscal llegara a tener conocimiento del mismo, los cargos de los que se les acusa, la determinación de extradición del acusado y bajo pedido a ser notificado e informado antes de cualquier disposición en caso dictado antes del juicio. Aviso y presencia de las actuaciones públicas, comparecencia y actuaciones en la corte y expresión de los puntos de vista. So I'm gonna make and create a video of these rights, and I need you to be translating all these rights. Remember, what I'm going to measure is how you understand English and how you produce in Spanish. So let's do it and listen. So Marcy's rights. So Marcy's rights, the first thing or the first right that you have is to be treated as fair as possible and respectful as possible. Victims have the right to be treated with fairness and respect for their privacy and dignity, and to be free from intimidation, harassment, and abuse throughout the criminal or juvenile justice process. So, fairness and respect. That's the first right that we have. The second right that we have is protection. Victims have the right to be reasonably protected from the defendant and persons acting on behalf of the defendant, even the lawyer. So the lawyer cannot harass a victim. If the lawyer starts harassing a victim, there can be two choices. He can get disbarred by his accusations, or he can get dismissed by the case, which is easier. And then bail and release conditions. The safety of the victim and the victim's family is considering fixing the amount of bail and release conditions for the defendant. So, if the defendant is going on bail, we have to be notified, even by cell phone. There has to be a cell phone, a call, letting us know that the defendant is being released. On what grounds he was released, maybe under a good faith by the judge, on probation, what are the types of probation that he's going to go through, if there is any restraining order that the judge maybe have pending, whatever. Confidentiality. Victims have the right to prevent the disclosure of confidential information or records to the defendant or in anybody, the defendant's attorney, or any other person acting on behalf of the defendant, which could be used to locate or harass the victim or the victim's family. So, how do we go from there? So, we have to understand the basic rights. So, first, do we have a right as a victim? Yes. ¿Tenemos derechos como víctima? Yes. California law provides a comprehensive framework for the rights of the victims and legal advocacy, focusing on ensuring the victims of crimes are informed. Primer derecho de la víctima a ser informada, protected, protegida, and supported, apoyada, throughout the criminal justice process. Victims' rights. California law provides a comprehensive framework for the rights of victims and legal advocacy, focusing on ensuring that victims of crimes are informed, protected, and supported throughout the criminal justice process. Understanding Marcy's rights. Primero tenemos que entender los derechos de Marcy. Marcy son los derechos que nacen de la víctima. Victim protections and resources. ¿Cuáles son los recursos y las protecciones, medidas de protección que puede tener la víctima? Y Victims Rights Card. ¿Cuál es la tarjeta de los derechos de la víctima que nos debe dar un policía? So, the victim's rights, here we can check them. Podemos checar las garantías de las víctimas en el Bill of Rights de la víctima. Son más de 17 derechos de la víctima. Recuerden que tienen que estudiar. Entonces, descarguen esto y verán las más de 17 garantías en materia para la protección de la víctima. Then we have, what is Marcy Law? Please go and check how Marcy Law is advised throughout the country. La ley de Marcy no fue tan correctamente adaptada por los 50 estados de la Unión Americana. No todas las legislaturas han tenido a bien adoptar el decreto constitucional que es Marcy Law. Entonces, ¿por qué hay cada estado que protege más los derechos del acusado, del defendant? ¿Por qué? Porque dicen que al final puede haber más derechos por parte del acusado si se le da más derechos a la víctima. Entonces, no todos los estados reconocen el Marcy Law, pese a que está en la misma Constitución Federal. Entonces, ¿cómo es que estas constituciones funcionan? Bueno, aquí en el vínculo nos puede decir esto, que de tarea revisen cuál es el discurso de Marcy, cómo es que Marcy se va a aparecer en los Miranda's Right. Entonces tenemos dos que es el Miranda's Act, Marcy's Act. La ley de Marcy y la ley de Miranda, o los derechos que nacen con el derecho de Miranda. El derecho de Miranda nacen los derechos del acusado, y con los derechos de Marcy nacen los derechos de la víctima. Entonces, de tarea, ver esos videos. Marcy's Rights, busquen la información. Hay películas de Netflix y hay películas viejas de Marcy, cómo nace este homicidio en 1983, y quién era Marcy Nicholas, porque era una estudiante de universidad que era estoqueada por su exnovio y él mismo la mató. Aquí lo que pasó después de este homicidio es que la familia no fue notificada de que el novio fue liberado bajo fianza, on bail. Esto llevó a que los derechos de la víctima nacieran, porque a partir de 1983 no se concretaron, de hecho, en California hasta el 2008, pero estos derechos de la víctima ahora son un mandato constitucional. Then we have to have the right to information. ¿Cuál es el primer derecho que nace de Marcy's Rights? El derecho a la información, el derecho a la privacidad, right to privacy, right to protection, el derecho a la protección física y también psíquica. Then we have victims, protections and resources. ¿Cuáles son los recursos que tiene la víctima? Primera, a ningún retardo. Entonces decimos no delay, no delay. Entonces, en el delay no debe haber retrasos en la justicia, lo que llamamos speedy trial. Es decir, así como Speedy González, que es de rápido, speedy trial. Una justicia pronta y expedita. No exclusion, no se puede excluir a la víctima de ningún acto procesal. La víctima tiene que ser activa procesal y al ser activa procesal tiene que ser también educada para que ésta pueda ser parte activa. Es decir, le tengo que mandar notificaciones, oye víctima, participa, no participas, ¿por qué no participas? ¿Okay? A recibir, a que se le reciban sus pruebas y naturalmente a ser escuchada por un juez. No unfair treatment, no puede haber un trato injusto. No más garantías al acusado cuando la víctima apenas tiene un derecho. Entonces, ese unfair treatment se tiene que ver reflejado en una sentencia donde el juez recabó toda la información por el district attorney. Recordemos que el juez solamente es un director del proceso, no juzga. Quien juzga es el jurado. Entonces, va a cuidar que cada uno de los jurados tampoco revictimice a la víctima. Then we have the victim's right cards. ¿Cuáles son los derechos que se ven asistidos desde el momento de la detención? Desde el momento de la detención, la policía está obligada a darle una tarjeta, que es esta tarjeta que tiene un QR, como es igual que ustedes tienen este QR, y ver las garantías que tienen como víctimas a tener un abogado, a que se les asista por el Estado, por el abogado del Estado, que se llama District Attorney, Ministerio Público. Si ellos quieren incorporar un abogado victimal, que le llamamos Victims Advocate, se puede. Pero este Victims Advocate estará obligado a caminar por la misma avenida del District Attorney. Entonces, todas las pruebas que el District Attorney ofrezca, lo único que va a hacer el abogado victimal va a ser poderlas complementar. No tiene una cuestión activa en el proceso. Entonces, aquí está la fecha en donde los Marcy's Rights se incorporaron constitucionalmente, que es el 4 de noviembre de 2008. Chequen el Marcy's Law, cómo se hizo el Act de 2008, para de ahí empezar a ver la definición de víctima, los derechos de víctima y de ahí cómo nace el derecho victimal. Las garantías conclusivas es fairness and respect, justicia y equidad o trato justo, protección, bail of release conditions, no se puede liberar al inculpado sin que se le notifique a la víctima. Y la confidencialidad de todo el proceso, confidentiality. Okay, so that was today's class. I'll see you on Friday. Make sure to understand and practice much of these rights. If you're a victim right now, you're listening, and you need to be protected, please let us know. Call us now, 650-705-8750. We have an office in Los Angeles, in San Francisco, and Mexico City to help you out with any Mexican national aggression against you. Okay, so I'll see you next class. Thank you for being with me. Take care.
Thank you, gracias.
Thank you.